Now I want to talk about 7 players who could be on the move this summer, all right? So we're going to start things off with the obvious name, Kawhi Leonard, and I see him going to the Boston Celtics for a few reasons. So first of all, the Spurs want to trade him to the East. The Spurs do not want to trade Kawhi Leonard to the Western Conference, and that I understand why, because of the obvious reasons that the Spurs are in the Western Conference themselves. I'm also not ruling that out. You guys have heard me before say that I still think that Kawhi could be traded to the Lakers. But I will say, 76ers and the Celtics are 2 teams to monitor when it comes to Kawhi because both look ready to pounce at the opportunity. So the 76ers acquired a 2021 first-rounder via Miami, also willing to move recent draftees, including Markelle Fultz. But I've got the Celtics here, and they got to shell out a few key pieces here. So Rozier has to be a part of the equation. Jaylen Brown as well. Marcus Morris is a slam dunk, easy one to include in this trade package here. And, of course, the Boston Celtics get Kawhi Leonard. So it's Kawhi Leonard and Horford and Hayward and Kyrie Irving. That is a big-time lineup. And that would make the NBA fun. Because there is the argument to be made that if Kawhi goes to the Lakers, LeBron goes to the Lakers, Paul George goes to the Lakers, then the NBA is not fun anymore because the NBA will be comprised of the Western Conference, and that's it. Because nobody really cares about the Eastern Conference at that point because, well, they're not winning an NBA title with LeBron, Kawhi, and Paul George out there with the LA Lakers. So, real question is, will Kawhi sign an extension with the Boston Celtics after the 2019 campaign, right? Because Kawhi will be a free agent. So in a sense, it's a 1-year rental. And Danny Ainge and the Boston Celtics leadership will have to somehow figure out the potentiality to extend Kawhi Leonard. And if they do make a trade for him and give out big-time pieces such as Brown, Rozier, and Morris, they better figure out a way to extend Kawhi. Otherwise, it's just a wasted year. Unless they win an NBA title, but even then some, you're throwing away a lot of good young pieces on that core. All right, so that's the deal with Kawhi. Let's take a look at another player who could be on the move. I've got DeMar DeRozan on my radar next up. And 3 years left on the deal, a lot of money left to be paid here, almost $28 million a year. Has some value, but if you trade him, you got to attach him with somebody else. So here's the Rubenstein trade machine, by the way. I forgot to call it the Rubenstein trade machine at the beginning of this segment. Shout out to Harris here for helping out with this. And Rubenstein came through with a little Michael Kidd-Gilchrist trade here, along with Malik Monk. And then the Hornets, active so far because of the whole Dwight Howard deal, remember that, get DeMar DeRozan. And the logic behind DeRozan leaving the Raptors is very simple to explain. Toronto, I think, needs to blow it up because we have learned that the Raptors just can't get it done in the playoffs with the core roster that they have. There has to be some sort of change, and DeMar DeRozan could be at the center of said change. Kyle Lowry, a name I'll get to later in the show, also a name that could be a part of the equation here. So Hornets get a big-time shooting guard in DeRozan. Change of scenery might help out DeRozan a little bit, to be honest with you, and maybe help him perform better in the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Raptors get a good core here, including Monk. I like Malik Monk a lot, to kind of reset a little bit as they try to make another push in the Eastern Conference, a team that absolutely balled out, by the way, in the regular season, and then obviously faltered in the playoffs. So as I go through these list of names, folks, be sure to let me know what player is most likely to be traded this offseason. I have a feeling you guys are all going to say Kawhi Leonard. Try to be a little creative here. Don't say Kawhi Leonard. Who is next? So 1A is Kawhi. Who is 1B? Most likely to be traded this offseason. Be sure to let me know. All right, next up on the list, Mr. C.J. McCollum of the Blazers. So the Blazers don't have much salary cap flexibility, and I think they also really do need to shake up their roster a little bit here. Let's face it, McCollum and Damian Lillard can only take this team so far. You saw them in the postseason, folks, not exactly inspiring. And I doubt the Blazers do this, but they could blow it up. And how about a trade with the Indiana Pacers? So the Pacers get McCollum and Evan Turner. And the Blazers, in exchange, get that growth of players, including a 2019 first rounder. So getting 2 nice pieces and a pick from the Pacers to cut salary would be a really good idea for the Blazers to kind of ease up on the salary cap burden that they are facing at this point. And by the way, for the Pacers, CJ McCollum and Victor Oladipo on that same team would be a very, very fun duo. Really exciting to watch. So keep in mind that McCollum could be on the move. We're not talking about him like we are talking about Kemba Walker and Kawhi Leonard, but McCollum could be on his way out from Portland. All right, so there you go. We'll get to some more players, but first, you're watching the Cam Rogers Show presented by AutoList. Tired of browsing a million sites looking for that new or used car out there? Go to Autolist.com to browse the largest source of inventory on the web, or download their top-rated mobile app for Android and iPhone today. All right, so Dennis Schroder has been at the center of many trade discussions and rumors of late. We've got Schroder going to the Milwaukee Bucks. The Hawks, meanwhile, don't really need to keep Schroder around because they just drafted Trae Young. And if you want to usher in this guy as perhaps the face of the franchise, talking about Trae, might be time to move on from Dennis Schroder. Now, he reportedly requested a trade a couple of months ago. And unfortunately, the Hawks have little leverage to move Schroder, but all it does, folks, is take one team to bet on him, and at only $15.5 million per season, it's not the worst contract in the world. Now, Schroder has a little over $40 million left on his deal, and I think the Bucks could be a team to make a move, shed some money, help out in that logjam there. And you see the Hawks get DJ Wilson, John Henson in exchange for Dennis Schroder. The Bucks need shooting guys. They just do. And so bringing in Dennis Schroder, a guy who obviously wants to leave Atlanta, makes some sense for me. I think this is a win-win trade. And for the Hawks that are trying to play the long game a little bit here with Trae Young and the new pieces that they have, I think it makes sense on their end too. So Dennis Schroder, low-key dark horse name to watch throughout these trade discussions in the NBA offseason. This guy next up, Marcin Gortat, is 99% sure he's going to be traded. That's literally what he said. So the Wizards continue to explore possibilities for trading Gortat, but reportedly didn't want to include that 15th overall selection during the NBA draft. Now, Gortat to the Mavericks. Now that makes some sense, and the Wizards can kind of help themselves out in terms of salary cap space. Gortat is 34 years old, has spent the past 5 seasons with those Wizards. He has appeared in all 82 games in each of the past 2 years, but his average of 8.4 points per game last season was his lowest in 8 years. So you may want to just dish him out now before the trend continues downward for Gortat. Dallas makes a lot of sense. They got the salary cap space to ingest Gortat's contract. Also, they have a need at center. Now, the Mavericks have been at the center, no pun intended, of DeAndre Jordan rumors and DeMarcus Cousins rumors and all these big man type of rumors out there in free agency and via trades because the Mavericks have such a need there at the center position. So Mavs would be a good spot for him. And Gortat obviously would not be surprised to see that trade go down, considering he himself said that he's 99% sure he will get traded. Now, talked about DeRozan. How about Kyle Lowry being traded from the Raptors? The Raptors ingest Mills, Gasol, Murray, and the Spurs get Kyle Lowry. So the logic here, again, is with the Toronto Raptors essentially trying to get some sort of reset going. Yes, they were number 1 in the Eastern Conference last year. Yes, there is the argument to be made that one of these years it's going to work. But if you're the new coaching staff for Toronto, are you saying to yourself, yeah, let's roll the dice here. I just got hired, and let's go with the same core that we have and see if it can change just because I'm the new head coach or I'm the new assistant or whatever. I think that's a big-time roll of the dice. So I think it's Lowry or DeRozan that has to be dealt. The Raptors just cannot enter the 2018-2019 season with the same core of players. It's just a fact. So that's a possible trade that could go down here. And apparently no one is untouchable on this Raptors roster here. That's the report out there. So we can't just pretend that all of a sudden the Raptors are automatically going to be good in the postseason. I'm not going to pretend. You shouldn't pretend. Even Raptors fans, even the most diehard fans out there can't just say, well, all of a sudden things are going to click and they'll be good in the postseason. Just don't see that happening. So Spurs get someone to kind of mentor Lonnie Walker to take over eventually, gives them a go-to scorer on offense, and Gasol's deal can be rid of as well, which is good news there. So Kyle Lowry could be on the move. We'll see. How about this guy, though? Andrew Wiggins. Send him back to Canada, huh? Well, there have been quite a few whispers out there of a Wiggins trade, and how about this? Raptors back involved here with DeMar DeRozan. They send DeRozan to the Timberwolves. The Raptors get Wiggins here, and there have been, like I said, some rumors out there of a Wiggins trade, especially with his contract extension about to kick in, and let's face it, he simply has not lived up to those big numbers on his contract that about will kick in very soon. So I see somebody in the comments section saying the Wiggins trade is fair for both teams. I agree. I actually like this trade the most. And Mr. Rubenstein also says that this is the best trade that we are proposing here on the program. And I think this is a very real possibility. Outside of a Kawhi Leonard, Kemba Walker kind of situation, this might be the most likely trade we see in the NBA offseason. Wiggins to the Raptors, DeRozan to the Timberwolves, and everybody kind of wins in their own regard. Wiggins gets a change of scenery here, and DeRozan gets his change of scenery as well because, well, the Raptors need to change something up. All right, so what player is most likely to be traded this offseason? Be sure to let me know in comments. I'll be reading what you guys say here on YouTube Live as well as Facebook Live. All right, so to summarize, these are the 7 names I want you guys to really zone in on as we go throughout these summer months. Potential trades here. Kawhi, obviously. He's been at the center of so many trade rumors. DeMar DeRozan, for obvious reasons, too. The Raptors got to blow it up in some regard. CJ McCollum. Maybe it's time to move on from that McCollum-Lillard duo. Lillard's staying, by the way, but McCollum, I think, could go. Dennis Schroder has reportedly requested a trade, so that one's easy. Gortat is very confident he's going to get traded. The Wizards need salary cap relief, so I could see that going down. Kyle Lowry, same logic there with the Toronto Raptors and their roster. And then Andrew Wiggins, big-time extension about to kick in here, and if the Timberwolves don't want to pay him that amount, maybe they deal him. All right, so those are the 7 guys to keep an eye on as we go throughout June and then July, which is not very far behind.